Hello. Sorry, bad start. Anyway, so this is season 3, episode 7. The season 3, episode 7 of Cobra Kai. Right, okay. Yeah, let's just get going, shall we? Right, get your episode ready. Going in 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry, delayed again. Alright, I have a couple of guesses with what this episode's about, but oh yeah, this is all gonna come back to me. Oh yeah, I remember this scene. So yeah, sorry if I was quite early. I was just trying to figure out what it was. Yeah, because there's a couple of bits and bobs where you were like, hang on, how come this scene is playing out? Like, where's the others? And then, but judging from, how the scene ends, that's where you would be guessing, it's a dream. And not to mention, this is not the kind of clothing Tori wears, so maybe she does in another point, but but yeah, it's just a bit more eye-catching than normal. So yeah, it's just emphasizing more of Sam's trauma. Yeah, because it's not just being scared of Tori; it's also just repeating all of those yeah, just like every other various things, thinking that it's her fault. Also, quick thing, it's a bit of a trope where people like leap from the beds like that because that's not how waking up works. I think it's reasonable enough for it happens more times than even if it is a trope that's not accurate to real life. Maybe it has happened to some people, but it's just not as common as as we see in films. Anyway, got a bit of a training montage. Oh, probably not the best idea. Don't want to hurt his back again. Must be the most sensitive thing at the moment for him. Oh, there you go. He's managing to keep going without the crutches. That's progress. Yeah, what's the song? I'm just gonna put the headphones on. Oh, that sounds cool. Oh, we're both getting chucked at a point where they're not. Wait, I thought you would take these back to like the NHS or something, or their equivalent. Um, oh yeah, now that this is for Johnny's now starting up his own dojo and thinking of an idea just similar to Cobra Kai as suggested by Miguel with a strike hard idea. But yeah, obviously it's going to be in just his type of karate. Yeah, I do remember that name well. Yeah, just be careful with apostrophes, I suppose. Okay, already to the next term, I suppose. Yeah, okay. So that means assuming that it works the same way as the UK, would it be like the after October? Is that what it is? Assuming that the leaves are brown. Okay, so that's where both parents are trying to ease her into what's going on at the moment, and then, but once they suggest karate, that's where Sam almost denounces it. And yeah, there's a lot of cases where people like denounce karate like temporarily, but it's done for like different reasons. It happens a couple of times in Johnny, and then Daniel has that phase in season 5. Terry has a huge one until season 4, so yeah, it's quite interesting to see the variety of ways people come and go with karate. But her reason is, the trauma and Tori, and and the guilt she's been carrying. Bad sleep as well. And then there's so yeah, at least Daniel is acknowledging that they should spend enough time with the others, but Amanda recognizing that is already like, oh, if Chris actually posing as a serious threat, go ahead, which yeah, it's reasonable enough. And yeah, this is the first time they've met since a while. Yeah, so unlike Tori would have had an impression with about Tori having that impression that Miguel's not really coming back, but the rest don't really know yet. Oh. Yeah, it's been 2 episodes since, so yeah, we can see Dimitri's been hospital for quite some time, or just needing that general recovery. Oh yeah, and this is a small montage of Johnny trying to find a space to to do. He started his own dojo, and as you can see later, he's suddenly reduced to borrowing a space in the field, but at least shares the area with Daniel. But yeah, just over time it goes from quite luxurious to this being quite rusty, and then nothing, and that's where he goes with the field, which is not a bad idea. I probably would have placed a couple of mats, but a space of grass could be hard enough if there's enough. He probably would have been referring to the previous place and its features. Yeah, back to the field. Yeah, because at first you're like, oh, yeah, assuming it's a nearby building, but now it's, but yeah, he's found it. Yeah, the spot's nice. I guess it stands out compared to the other 2 dojos. Now Daniel's back in his area, his usual place. To help Sam. Quite reminiscent of the first film with Daniel and Miyake sharing a boat. And I vaguely remember this getting the. So not only are some scenes coming back, but this episode, part of it is Sam getting back into karate again. But yeah, Daniel's trying to I guess like subtly um, trying to get her back into karate, but he's definitely doing something else. To completely take your mind off it. The reason I say subtly is that, as you see later on, using a fishing rod, it's like tips on how to use a bow, which it's quite a nice detail. Something I can see working. And I think fishing is something they probably do quite often. Oh, that long? I suppose she had a lot of schoolmates and then I must be busy with business. But in season one, they go out to get as out and about with as like a full family. But I think Daniel's just probably referring to just them two alone, which it's a long time. Yeah, even if Daniel's trying to have those the payoff with the bow. Daniel still it doesn't want to make it about karate, but it just sounds a bit paranoid that she's picking just thinking that Daniel's just trying to gaslight her into going karate again. And that's her explaining more about how she felt during the fight. I'd say something else about Sam is that she does, unlike the other characters, she kind of has like nearly all the same emotions, and because even when other characters are in a low point, there's like moments with levity around them, just to like vary the emotion. But yeah, it's almost like even if there's been a new event that's made it even more dire, and of course she was happier with the car wash and things she did earlier. Um, um, I think that's just something else that people have, another reason why people probably struggle to, um, um, engage with some compared to other characters. Anyway, this is relative case. No, sorry. Um, so yeah, Miguel's caught up with Dimitri, and there's now a redirect squad. To which I think that's where Johnny's gets some of his first lot of students, and oh look at that look of Eli. Just the eye movements. It's it's just going back to that dilemma he has. And it's also Miguel trying to get Eli and back to Johnny, but as later on it doesn't really work out. Oh, there were other Miyagi students in the back there, just feeling bad for him, and now she kind of feels bad as well. Which small reason later on. But yeah, those two are kind of falling out, which is a bit of a shame. And yeah, and the she seems to be a bit closed off as well, which I guess is understandable. I think anyone could feel this bad if feeling like you weren't able to do anything back then. She has a lot of highlights around her hair. I think in season 5 it's like an all dark hair colour later. I just suddenly noticed. Yeah, Daniel and Tori have never spoke to each other. I don't think at all. But imagine in season 6 that could be like an interesting angle to go for. But I suppose it just depends how season 6 plays out with how much he wants to juggle and wrap up. And not to mention, I don't think Sam was able to talk much about, definitely not, poor emotions somewhere. And and now she finally has that chance. Now Daniel's making more of an effort. With the balance in that. Yeah, and all this time, Daniel's been. He's a rather a decent dad. He's just only like in the likes of season 2 where you could argue he kind of puts the kids in danger, but at the same time he teaches Sam and karate, and even offering to teach his son karate too. So other than misbalancing, he's a fairly good parent. Yeah, Miguel's a bit. I don't think he's really had an opportunity to get hold of. Coming back to school after all this time and just seeing Cobra Kai completely clouding all over. You're struggling to get Eli back. Which, there hasn't been much time anyway, but it's already quite a tricky start. But just after updating Johnny about Eli and that, it's going to have a go to see if he can sort it. Oh, first time they've seen each other in a while. And then just listening in the background. Yeah, so Eli could be half right, but Johnny's like, I already know my mistakes, and I'm not going to do, take it from him. Yeah, look at Eli. Johnny's winning this argument at the moment. Just once again reminding. Well, actually, no. I think it's. I don't think Johnny's ever talked about because if anything, Johnny said, him and Chris had differences, but Johnny talks about how following Chris could lead to a more inferior future. So, that's what he's trying to warn them about. And so Eli's a bit undecided. And not to mention, when Johnny works to train off that kid, not only is it funny, but that kid even joins the dojo as well, as you'll see later on. Another piece of history that Sam gets to learn about of his dad. Not gonna lie, I think we all have that, all sorts of fascinating events that we don't know for any parents yet. Yeah. So despite 1 and 3, the films having slightly different. I don't know. They looked quite similar, so that means that does the third one take place in a completely different dojo? No, it looks different compared to the first one. Yeah, that was a really tough scene for him. But it's nice for once again just expanding the context of it. Yeah, because I'm not sure I said this before. I wasn't really the biggest fan of how all 4 of these films ended. Just almost as if that, as well as the winning the fight being the winning part of the climax, is also like part of the resolution as well. But Cobra Kai, after a climatic fight, there's more time dedicated to reflecting the events in that. So yeah, if all the films took that kind of approach, then we could have had, 3, for instance, with Daniel talking about, how he felt about that fight. But it's just kind of made up here, which is rather nice. Yeah, I'm not against how the Karate Kid films end, because sometimes that's how some films ended in the past. It still gives you that nice feeling of, yay, they won. But yeah, I think I and others are probably more familiar with, how how the time is spent after a battle in victory. But yeah, just Daniel sharing his it's just like a similar experience. Yeah, it's a good stepping stone for her recovery. So that's nice. Unlike this, yeah, that's Dimitri still getting beaten. I think you remember what she does. But yeah, once again, I'm not sure if I said this before, but after being humiliated in season 1, she kind of felt in a similar position to how Dimitri currently feels. But um, I've never seen that being done before. Yeah, because something similar happens in the In-Betweeners. Imagine if Neil had that kind of lucky treatment. And yeah, her talking about season 1. Yeah, people kind of described it as contrived, and whilst I agree that this is, definitely not as developed compared to other things, and at least it's a far more of a background thing in the series, but it was contrived, the word for it. I'm not sure. But even then, it still adds to Dimitri, and also to get another miniature perspective of another far more background character as well. Oh, and she's learning that Daniel's method in film 3, right? Yeah, Daniel would have given us some space as well. Definitely needed. Yeah, given no choice as well. Eases depression. She's kind of laughing about it as well. So yeah, she's definitely feeling better. Also, I kind of take the argument back. Well, um, it's not really my argument, is what other people have kind of said. But I could see where it comes from, like across the series. But yeah, season 3 doesn't really have that. It's kind of lengthy. It varies with how worse it gets in the last 2 episodes. But now she's feeling better now. So that's almost like her midpoint, even if the series is already past midpoint. But if that's I would say that's fine. As long as it's wraps up in its own time. Because how a plot arcs and how a character arc works, they can vary even if they a little parallel. Yeah, when I titted back then, it was just because of what Johnny was saying. Yeah, just to clarify. I do remember this moment because Johnny doesn't know what mongoose is. And Bert's all confused. And then it leads to another funny moment as well. And I think creating t-shirts is probably easy nowadays, so he's probably got the help with Miguel. I'm afraid you have to buy the concept. Yeah, pretend it's like a fictional creature, I suppose. You decide to take the. Everyone else just put the shirts on the top of their shirts, but you decided just to put that alone. Oh, there's eyes behind Johnny, and obviously, yeah, we could see the kid that got his tray knocked. I think maybe the kid asked what all of it was all about, or unless he was listening to all of that in the distance and then carried on walking. Maybe that's how he got interested. I guess it's just a funny detail about how Johnny bothers someone only to get another student. Anyway, so Eli coming could would have created the feeling of, oh yay, they come around, but Tori coming in worsens it, and then now it's even made more worse. Yeah, Eli's definitely staying where he is. And Eli would have also passed on knowledge to Chris as well, as shown earlier. Yeah, well, he's Chris here. Oh, he's giving Chris another chance to try and expand Cobra Kai further, but no, Johnny's going to maintain his stance. I think that's another nice thing about this show is that in some modern media, there's cases where the leading characters don't really have a lot of agency or ways to stand up for themselves. When it comes to other obstacles and other characters kind of overtake them. But in this case, yeah, Johnny's just it's just nice to go back to a story where the lead character is one of the more strong-willed, because Johnny's definitely not tempted, but it's still really hard to go for the right words and to make sure to keep Kreese away. Not to mention Kreese kept his promise about no fighting, the way they kept Eli there. And even, I think Kreese even dissed Miguel at one point, which means that Miguel's just definitely not part of Cobra Kai now. Yeah, that's definitely final. And Eli's still being in Cobra Kai, that adds to how Eli's could officially be a bad guy. Yeah, because I think that sometimes you're at risk of creating someone who can't really make their mind up whether they want to be good or bad. But I think with Eli, it's been, aside from a couple of dilemmas, hinting that that person's still there. Eli's been consistently, sinister with his actions and the way he confronts certain people. So yeah, it's just variations every now and again, but it's still staying on point. Also, as I rewatch this episode, it starts with a frame of Miyagi with Sam's foot being opposite the frame, which could indicate that that she needs Miyagi's help, or how Cobra Kai is overcome Miyagi-Do, especially with Sam's trauma coming from it as well. So yeah, I guess all sorts of ways to interpret that. Anyway, so just another nice episode. Just once again, it's just planting more seeds and builders and bridges between what's happened before and later on. So yeah, just it's a bit more of another character focused one. Yeah, there isn't much action other than the Sam's dream and a bit of bow fighting as well between Daniel and Samantha, and I guess you could count the flashback in the third film as well. But yeah, and Johnny started off his dojo, which is still the case, which is rather cool. And then you have Johnny almost because now Miguel's like back up on his feet. Johnny's got it's reminiscent to season one with Johnny training Miguel, and it's more different this time because instead of being karate, it's just making sure that Miguel has just enough core strength post recovery. And oh yeah, I forgot to say, Johnny's still waiting for Ali's reply, but considering how this episode wants to take his time with things, you couldn't really squeeze it in. But it's nice to have an update with Johnny's still waiting for the reply, so there's something there. And I like Dimitri's stuff. He's been more bothered about the bullying and what's happened, and he just try and stay optimistic. Especially with how he greets the girl, but yeah, Carla still fancies bullying Dimitri, and in fact, it could have even, I don't know, because the entire summer happened, so of course wouldn't have really been encountering each other until recently. So yeah, I think you could assume that Dimitri's been bullied for since the start of term, and it's probably worsened because of the cast he's got, and not to mention Kyla being part of Cobra Kai as well, because Eli and Kyla are probably more on the same page, but not an awful lot. I think they just probably have a bit more mutual respect as opposed to being mates, which I think is sensible, because I don't think because if you remember that bad luck that Kyla gave, after his mate was beaten up, I think a part of him probably felt bad about bullying Eli, and also just seeing how much Eli has grown. So yeah, I don't think they would have been mates. That's a really I think that would have been a really daft story idea, because Eli gets on well enough with Tori, and we don't need another character to further complicate the dilemma, because if anything, everything that he used to care for, like Dimitri, is on the is with Miyagi-Do, which is part of the end of this season and the following one. So yeah, nice just nice neat stuff for him, I suppose. And despite not seeing Amanda much, it's nice for her to encourage them into karate, and with Daniel knowing his ways, she is saying, oh, use that Miyagi magic, I can handle the business. I think the business probably will be a bit easier thanks to Daniel's plan paying off. So yeah, at least we don't have to worry about the business. Well, it only gets referenced once more in the season about the whole snake thing. So yeah, that comes back once. And yeah, Miguel's definitely cut off on Cobra Kai, evidently, falling out with Eli, and I think Reese did say something about Miguel as well, unless he was talking about Johnny failing Miguel, which I think still, because Kreese doesn't do lower quality, so I think he would have, although he still tries to invite them to back into Cobra Kai, but I think once his offer was refused, he takes the chance to belittle them. Definitely doesn't see either of them being worthy, and just like the other kid who was kicked out, who was Chris's mate. I forgot his name. I know he has his nickname, but I don't want to use nicknames. I'm just not a fan of them. And Johnny has a field where he can do his dojo, which helps his dojo kind of stand out, and in a self-aware way, whilst Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, they look like just like more well produced. Like Johnny's Cobra Kai is just like very cheap, would take place on the field, and with how corny his logo is, but it's kind of self-aware with what's his face, making a comment about Johnny's logo before Johnny like chucks the t-shirt at him. It's just self-aware, but over time it does become just as like cool and well produced as the other dojos, because in season 4 they have that really nice red gi, and with Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang working together, it creates that very interesting 2-in-1 kind of mixture, which looks really cool in the following 2 seasons. So yes, and then Daniel helps Sam recover, and Daniel talks about the end of Karate Kid 3, which is definitely another really bad stage in his life, and it's probably the first time we've heard seen Mike Barnes, I suppose. I think we saw him in the photo there in season 1, when Johnny was trying to get his Cobra Kai at the time back into the tournament. So there's that. But yeah, to kind of see, how Mike impacted Daniel back then, that adds more presence to Mike, which is also kind of cool. And it's just season 1 and 2. There was a lot of moments where where the showrunners are like, "Hey, Karate Kid 3 is actually fine," especially once we put our input in. This season 3 hasn't really done. If anything, there was a lot of an emphasis with the second film, but once again, as time goes on, there's just references to those first 3 films, and the additional context. Nothing on the 4th film, but I've watched the 4th film once and I liked it, but I would like Cobra Kai to reference anything, whether Hilary Swank comes in, or if Daniel was ever aware of that part of Miyagi's history as well. I think a couple of elements to connect the 4th film into into the series in some way. I think that could help wrap this whole thing up with the next season. And some people thought that the Karate Kid reboot could also fit in this universe, to which that could be cool, but I and others probably still see it as its own thing. Anyway, I can't really think what else to say. It's just some nice little steps, which is often quite a good thing, because sometimes you want to make a story as short as possible. Because when I was creating my Haphazard Legion story, which you'll see throughout my YouTube, etc., a lot of when I was planning it almost like a TV show, it was almost only 6 seasons. Well, no, sorry, 6 episodes each, because of the kind of events that are happening. But with Cobra Kai, despite some seasons having grander moments than others, once again we have episodes like this where it's just some tiny small developments. And you could say that Johnny starting off his dojo is a big deal, but it's not really framed as such. But I think because I think there's like a small impression because of how small Johnny's dojo is, this is kind of doubt of, is he actually going to be able to maintain that dojo considering the stage Cobra Kai is at. But once he joins Miyagi-Do, that's where things turn out a bit better. That's where the framing's more grand and such, which that's the impression I got when I first watched it. I think that's all I can say. I don't think there's much else. Just and a lot of other nice bits and bobs, and also the stuff on the field. That's what not only chucking the shirt, but also back in the tray as well. There are definitely a couple of other funny moments from Johnny as well. I think that's all I can say for this one. Just another neat, tidy episode, and I don't really remember how 8 or 9 plays out, but we'll wait and see, I suppose. Alright, see ya. Hello, so it's season 3, episode 8 of Cobra Kai. I really like the title of this one. It's self-explanatory. I didn't understand the word of the previous episode. Does it mean moving on or recovery? Which I guess is tied to how Sam recovers and how Miguel and Johnny have moved on. That could be, well, I'm just only guessing. But anyway, if you get your episode 8 up, start in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, well, not that I remember the words of the speech, but I do remember the transitions because despite all of them having different philosophies and different ways of speaking, they still strangely connect well because of the editing. And oh well, we have Miyagi-Do being in their gi, which yeah, it's the first time we've seen them like that. And yeah, Daniel's wearing that banner again, which is cool. Oh, is Dimitri recovered? Yeah. I tell you what I like about subtitles, as I use them, is learn a bit more about punctuation. So if skipping from someone else's dialogue to the next, Daniel's dialogue ended in 2 dashes, unless they're wrong, but I'm not sure. It's also interesting to see how all dodos have their own similarities and differences. All of them would want to win, but um, I think it kind of cuts back and forth in the same order. Yeah, Daniel, Johnny, then Grease, and then it's back to Daniel, Johnny, and Grease. But yeah, just like the differences in the clans here is just, or dojos more specifically. Yeah, it's just rather cool. And also, Grease has got a new black gi, with the logo at the side. Yeah, has he worn that before? I think so. Oh, and that shot as well. It's really cool. And also, yeah, I did see Dimitri in the things that he is still recovering. Like, at least he can still learn. And if he moves about, it'll probably help with his healing. Ah, yeah, and Robbie's back. Yeah, he wasn't referenced Tron in the last episode, but um, yeah, time to shift the focus back onto him. Yeah, and now because despite Johnny and Grease not really meeting up a couple of times, with the way Johnny was intimidated back then, kind of sees, as he said, Grease being his problem, but now Johnny's been caught up that Daniel's being threatened as well, and yeah, they haven't seen each other since episode 2, where they ended on a bad note between one another, and now they're pretty much fighting to get hold of him. It's almost like fighting to get an additional student to the dojo. But even if that's like a very little subtext in the text, both of them just want to be supportive figures to them, but due to various reasons, yeah, Robbie's not going to go for either of them. So yeah, the way he passes through them, and with Crease being um, helping Robbie recently, you could already make some guesses that Robbie's going to join Crease. Anyway, I don't think they've seen each other in quite some time, so yeah, nice to see them back together again. Yeah, so Sam sees that Miguel's more independent, not connected to Cobra Kai, which makes him a bit happier. Well, they progressed fast. Although they do have that dynamic where, just keeping it to themselves and, yeah, just pretending that they don't know each other much. Yeah, yeah. Dimitri's not afraid to show it off, but Yasmin not so much. But I think she does uh, become more public with it. In season 4, there was the prom, assuming that they have more of a public presence, more with them to be in a couple. And yeah, with Dimitri's in recovery, so you can assume it's been a couple of weeks passing. And yeah, as well as trying to being a sensei again, Robbie as well, which would have made Daniel a bit off, and not to mention Chris again. And yeah, Amanda can see through that. And something else I remember, Robbie does, decide to go back to Miyagi-Do as first choice, but obviously something happens which makes him steer towards Cobra Kai, which we'll see later on. Oh, it's yeah, it's him, or one of them, one of them in there, um, from the tournament, and it looks like he has some knowledge as well. Is when he was talking about a koi. What would that be? Some kind of. I'd have to look into that later. But yeah, I think I remember the premise of this episode. Seiya Karate is not karate, being the tournaments being cancelled, and yeah, they're gonna fight to keep it going. Yeah, that look of oh, yeah, because God, I hope he gets like a. What would you do that in public? Um, but yeah, oh, now they're up to date. Yeah. Although I wondered if they cancelled it for this year, unless it's just cancelled permanently. It's more like a permanent thing. And of course, the event at school is still scarring all sorts. But yeah, just as I was saying earlier, with the look between Johnny and Miguel, Miguel's keen that he's still got it, but he doesn't like being belittled. And then there's Johnny who, is trying to see Miguel do his best, but he's also feeling protective of Miguel considering what happened. Because, despite the exercising in the previous episode, you would think, oh, is Miguel 100% again? But yeah, it looks like that's not the case. Because yeah, kicking is a whole other art. Just some minor levity, I suppose. Just gives more personality to the bloke despite not seeing him much. Ah, so they're more. Well, they had one reason to keep it cancelled. Although Sam does have another idea. I think that's something else. something else that Sam's not really keen on. No, when no, what viewers aren't keen on with Sam, and it's that there's occasional moments where she's framed as almost having the better idea or the um like the better advice compared to the likes of Daniel, because there's one other example I can think of in season 4. Um, but I think we'll see what season 4 is like. But I think when looking at both of them, she kind of sees it in the perspective of being one of the kids being messed about. Whilst Daniel, is no longer a kid. He's a sensei. He's just getting pushed around by other senseis. So you can see how they would have different perspectives, and I guess it's kind of reasonable how Sam, so a vaguely well done brought up teenager who seems to have a good moral compass, from the likes of Miyagi and Daniel, although as some viewers kind of point out, some viewers think she has be like the behaviour of a rich kid, where she thinks just like the normal traits of Mon, which I'm not too familiar of. It's just something else I've heard. Anyway, I think Robbie's trying to search for a job, isn't he? And of course, Tori would be. I think she's trying to find additional jobs, unless it's like an update, a job update for her. Who knows? Oh yeah, he still has a soft spot for Sam, trying to keep her in mind about it, but yeah, Tori's slightly exaggerating, but Robbie just kind of turn away from Sam, as you'll see later on. Yeah. I think when looking at the title, the three senseis and dojos had their own way and view of the tournament being cancelled, and to see those three being the ones to get the tournaments back on track, just further explains more of the title. Also, I just completely talked over that scene where was what I said earlier with Johnny being worried about Miguel. Miguel was ever so frustrated, and Carmen's just trying to, like she sees Miguel being frustrated, but she also sees that Johnny's doing his best. Yeah, so Johnny's just reminding she's reminding Johnny about what he managed to achieve with Miguel so far. Well, not just Miguel, but steps between him and her as well, which is rather cool. And she's looks like she's explaining how her thoughts, what her initial thoughts were, and Johnny accepting it as well. Oh, okay. Because I was just trying to remember why her mind changed over time. But not only was just the nice things for Miguel, which kind of makes up for it, but Carmen does see Johnny being extremely regretful for what what happened to Miguel. So yeah, that's a different way of seeing it. And it looks like they already talked about the tournament, and also just seeing how much it means for Miguel. That's what they're probably talking about. Johnny could have also been sadly doubtful of the tournament as well, because at least it'll keep Miguel out of harm's way. wonder what, oh yeah, I bet, Greece is definitely the most keen on getting it going. But if, as you'll see later on, it just becomes a fight, well, I guess with each other about who gets to be the dojo to bring it back up, and Johnny partially wins, especially with Miguel coming about. Oh, but Sam as well. So if anything, Greece kind of loses. Diary. It's further explaining the differences. Gonna be half right, but at least there's some tricks to see. $12.32. Yeah, so it looks like Greece is already made it. He must have been like in the front row or something. And of course he's kind of making up his own narrative about what good it does, but he's actually far more violent with his methods. And now he's saying that Yagado is the violent one. And rightfully so. I think Greece was just pointing out, was that like miswording, or Greece just kind of getting, his spotlight back? Because because of how mature he presents himself, that makes him more of the mature one at this point, because of Daniel just bumping in, which yeah. Abandoned creation facility. Oh, was that the where Dimitri broke his arm? I remember this moment. It's one of Amanda's best moments. That makes Daniel look even worse. I think Daniel's just, I guess, slightly annoyed, but at the same time, it kind of makes a case against Greece. Oh, there's Amanda being chased in the background. Daniel doesn't know about the dojo yet. No wonder he made that look. A thief? Oh, because of stealing the dojo from Johnny. Okay. Because even if Grease made himself the more mature one, with what he's been, the kind of labels he was given, it makes all three of them kind of bad. Yeah, nothing that brings Johnny down really. I suppose we'll wait and see. Yeah. Also, did Daniel mention about the snake in the garage? Oh yeah, he would have been on the news, and there's even some people being like, "Oh yeah, he's walking again." Yeah, even if those haven't watched the news, they might have heard about it, which made you go, "Oh, that's him." Because Greece, despite his manipulative ways, he does talk about how karate has helped the students, but Miguel has definitely come from a more truthful place, and yeah, with a more youthful perspective, that's definitely adds to the favour, because with the senseis you don't know how they're training their students, but now they have their perspectives, it helps. Yeah, he's not afraid to admit that he used to be a bully. But yeah, it's just one of the primary themes, just learning how to counter it. Well, it's a bit more complicated at the moment, but with some of the basics, that's how it plays out. Yeah, there's done all that's pleased with Sam, but also Grease, as Grease, likes to admire when people have, when he goes, oh, I like that, just admiring how people present themselves. I think Grease partial as that looks, but at the same time, neither of them are his students. I think he's a bit let down that it won't be his dojo that gets it back up, and yeah, because all the other dojos aren't as involved, you can probably see why no other sensei showed up. Maybe some of them would have been around in this crowd, despite wearing the smart clothing like everyone else is. Maybe they might have or would have said statements, or maybe them weren't. Maybe they're just fine with it because, like I said, they don't have the conflicts that that Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai have. So yeah, just something to point out. But regardless, day one. Well done, Miguel and Sam. Yeah, the relationship's a bit had more back on track. Oh, what does Grease have to say? Yeah, slightly threatening. Yeah, now the fighting's back on track. Yeah, could mean anything. Yeah, because with just three of them, going against one another, Chris is definitely confident, especially with him having the bigger army and the most time training. But once the team up, that's where Chris is like, yeah, let's try and get Terry back on board, or Terry on board rather. Oh yeah, because has Miguel ever been? No, I don't think he's ever been here before. So, um, just comparing where they normally train around, that's nice. Oh, I think I recognise what they're drinking. I have two guesses, but no, I'll pass it. But yeah, just kind of get back into karate. That's nice. Yeah, this just adds to their victory of getting the tournaments back on track. Oh, he can kick forwardly, but he can't spin as he kicks. Which, yeah, like I said, that is still a art form in itself. On the camera swears, doesn't it? Partially, yeah, after a cut. Oh, okay. That makes Sam kind of bad. The whole lack of patience thing. But even then, it's just how them two are catching up. So it's kind of normal to be drawn to someone else again, especially when Miguel denounces Cobra Kai, and considering he's the one that got hurt like she has. So maybe that's one reason why she's forgotten about Robbie a bit. Well, definitely afterwards anyway, because she does try to be optimistic about Robbie at first, but yeah, did Daniel not say to her about Robbie being out of jail? Well, I suppose there has been other things going on, I suppose, and Daniel probably has other things to focus on. Probably does want to stress to Sam about it either. Another interesting detail is that instead of Sam being in the middle of the fight between them two and her getting punched, she deflects Robbie being the aggressor this time, and he goes off, which keeps McGunn and Sam together. But yeah, like the tension between McGunn and Robbie, then it's still quite there despite their letter exchange. But anyway, yeah, them two are celebrating that they got the tournament back on track. Oh. That must be a very sensitive telly. What if you like throwing a bit of popcorn on the telly, would that fall too? And I think we know how this scene turns out. But yeah, Johnny's just made further impressive by, he's got the dojo back without, because all he did was kind of have jabs against Cobra Kai, unlike Daniel, where he sounds like kind of desperate with, kind of being part of Grease's intention. Yeah, Johnny just almost seemed like the best out of the three, but you're still swearing and almost, being like, hey, Kreese is lying, the same kind of accusational behaviour, if that's even a word, similar to how Daniel was talking about Kreese. But yeah, Miguel was there. He was in the main drive with saving the dojo. Johnny being there is definitely part of the effort, and some also come along to help. So that almost kind of hints that Miyagi-Do and Big and Karate are kind of teaming up. Just definitely the first hint between them. And yeah, it's a bit of a debate whether that kiss was earned or not. But it's just been consistently nice for between them, after the accident. So yeah, I can buy it. And yeah, Donnie continues to do the best he can do. Yeah, so after a couple of nice relaxing episodes, although granted this one doesn't have much action either, just a bit of training with, well, just seeing how Johnny trains in the field despite low budget. Especially how he tries to use frisbees. Just a nice way of improvising. He does have that improvising part of him. I think all of the senseis kind of do, but I feel like, I feel like both Daniel and Johnny have their own ways of improvising to help train. But compared to Kreese, who seems to be far more formal and straight on with how, sorry, with how he trains the students. So yeah, the trying to get the tournament back on track. It's definitely, definitely another grand step for this season, and I feel like it had an earlier midpoint, or it could be one of those midpoints which is a bit more dire, well, for some characters anyway, like Sam, because Daniel had a success with getting his business back on track. So yeah, that's something I never really learnt about, because with the midpoint, you're either positive or negative with how the story turns, but it looks like it can kind of do both depending on what the storylines look like. But yeah, just like if looking at this at structure, I think this is still I don't really know what the low point of this season looks like. I suppose we'll see what the next episode's like. I suppose there's a small one because with Robbie joining Cobra Kai, that's definitely a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, because when I thought this season was going to be the final one, because when they talk about the tournament again, I thought that was going to come about and then end the season, but obviously not. Especially with how the last episode plays out. But yeah, you can see why, especially with how it's talked about. But by mentioning the next tournament already, it does already help with, the following season, because that ends with a tournament. And Yeah, so just a really cool episode. This is like a me thing, but I'm really fascinated when things are like separated into fractions, and I'm just talking about anything, with how we categorize animals, how, like Star Wars, for instance, all the characters are categorized by Rebels, Imperial, or Jedi, or with the various fractions in the MCU, I suppose. Yeah, I just really like that sense of division. I just always find that really interesting, and for that show to do that as well. It's already kind of cool seeing the differences between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, but if we want to come in as well, um, yeah, and Eagle Fang's already tried to stand out, with seeming like he's on the lower budget, and how it's almost like Johnny's own form of karate almost, because if Cobra Kai is too extreme, then no wonder he kind of starts or presents karate in his own way. He only brought back Cobra Kai because it wasn't there was no Cobra Kai around. It was one of the only things I was familiar of. But now then one of the main heads is back to it. Yeah, he's been pushed out, and yeah, it's just kind of neat to see. Well, just more of that difference. And yeah, with that whole court case being the main part of this episode, we see how all of the characters view some pros and cons about whether the tournament should happen or not, and the reason why it happens is also reasonable considering the early events, and also we see some of elements of progress, like Daniel getting back into sensei training again, with of course Amanda's a lot more fine with it, and Dimitri's healed, which is cool, and Dimitri also has he has been now, so they're an item. And despite the hints, a couple of hints in season 4, it's definitely not something that's referenced much. I don't think he has been in season 5 at all, but maybe there could be a line, who knows. Yeah, and Robbie all this time, despite not seeing much of him, just go from, just, still backing off from both Johnny and Dendril, then he sees Tori, which I can't remember the exchange. I'm just going to quickly quick to it. That probably is like one of the last one more stay towards Cobra Kai, because Tori could have said something, some advice, I suppose. And then you have Miguel and Sam, kind of going against Robbie with despite the complication. So that's already kind of 2 dojos against 1, and there are also 2 of the best students of their senseis as well. So just limited time done well, and just Amanda shouting across the thing as well. I really like, just not only a really funny bit, but it's just one of my favourite moments, because not only is it her funniest moment, but just once again just a bit more agency, just the way she does stand up for herself, and once again the whole strain and order is maintained as well. Okay, so when just watching Sam and Robbie in their scene, it looks like Tori's referring to how Robbie's been distant away from what's been going on, as if that Tori and the others have been picking up the pieces, unlike Robbie, but old boy Robbie's been through all sorts, you have no idea. And it's also the first time they've met since the school fights, and I wonder, Robbie already had quite a reaction to Tori, and Tori's also kind of putting the blame on Robbie, as it seems, as well, which I bet Kreese must have walked ahead by saying, oh, it's definitely all Miyagi-Do's fault. So her attitude's changed, so that makes it a bit more scary. And Johnny and Carmen are back together, and Miguel not being able to spin kick, that's definitely something for the finale. Just one more thing for him to overcome. Yeah, because he can kick forwardly, but just not the spins. That's something I didn't really catch at first. And also, Miguel and Sam's relationship is almost restarted, which kind of nice. Just similar vibes to season 1. So yeah, that's quite nice. I say when I go through the commentaries, I do kind of feel like I'm talking about the plot and how I observe. I almost sound like a very chatty audience member, and I guess that's partially the viewpoint. But I do try and pick up why these things work. Not to mention there's a couple of things I've questioned about. Such as why Daniel hasn't mentioned anything about Robbie to Sam, but I did state a couple of reasonable reasons, such as not wanting to add any stress to Sam, considering that she's in a far more better mindset. But yeah, just evidently they're just still progressing with various bits and bobs and just trying to balance all sorts. And I feel like this episode almost pretty much featured everyone, and it's just a good representation of how everyone's viewed. The senseis had their nice solid role, and the kids all full of personalities, well, especially the main ones. I suppose Eli hasn't been prominent. He had one scene, just definitely solidifying, Miguel and him not being mates anymore, which, just a well juggled episode, I suppose. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think this one's also like in the top half most liked episodes of season 3 for me. I just kind of like the court thing because you would have thought how else does the Scorefly affect the grand scheme of things. After seeing what it's done to the characters, what does it do for the rest of the valley? And yeah, we kind of have an answer to that, or one of them anyway. So yeah, I think that's all I can say about this one. So just a kind of a feel good one, but the only negative elements being Johnny being defensive of Miguel and Miguel being unable to spin and Robbie joining Cobra Kai. So definitely a lot of negative areas, which definitely keeps us hooked. But what does episode 9 look like? Oh god, I've no clue. If anything, the next episode does have a deleted scene where, Kreese is training Robbie, and after Robbie gets a hit from Kreese then talks about, Johnny wasn't defeated by the crane kick, it was his thinking process, but maybe the scene was deleted because I guess it could be half true with the mindset because it's talked about in season 4 when Johnny and Kreese have a chat to each other about we know what happened in 1984, but it was also partially the case that the crane kick did defeat Johnny because Miyagi-Do just has its own tricks up their sleeve, just very complicated tricks. I don't remember other deleted scenes, but there's a it's just worth looking through them because many reasons why scenes would be cut. Because sometimes there could be cases where deleted scenes could have been kept in to strengthen the story, but oftentimes it doesn't do much. And I think that deleted scene also didn't really do much. It didn't really add to Kreese's and Robbie's relationship. Maybe a tad, but I think you can somewhat infer it with how Kreese teaches Robbie, and not to mention Robbie's quite an independent bloke because as in season 4 when Daniel tries to warn Robbie about Terry, Robbie does kind of get misled by both senseis, especially with Harry when he tries to talk to Kenny in season 5. Robbie still thinks, on his own. He kind of makes his own choices because Miguel's very keen on Johnny, and Sam's always going to be on his dad's side, and yeah, Robbie's just very unique in that department. So yeah, I think we'll end it right there. So definitely one of the more feel-good episodes of season 3. And I also like seeing Robbie catch up with the others too. Well, as in Miguel and Sam, just definitely a meet-up that was built up. Yeah, it's just, just definitely referenced a lot at first, but now Robbie's out of prison, it's fresh news. Anyway, yeah, let's stop right there. Sometimes I just end up rambling, don't I? But yeah, I'll let you go, and see ya. Hello all, welcome to the second to last episode of season 3, also known as episode 9 of season 3. Okay, we'll get this stuff sorted, and I have food with me this time, so I might eat and drink in between, which is their first for this series of videos. Okay, I'm all set. Alright, see if you can get your episode ready in 3, 2, 1, go. Hang on. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so as I said before, I kind of forgot what this premise was, and I can't believe that I forgot about it. But yeah, I do remember a good portion now. Definitely one aspect, but yeah, I haven't. Yeah, we'll just see how it goes. Yeah, so it's reached December, so yeah, considering when school first came up, yeah, quite a large amount of time has passed. Anyway, so we've been wondering what's been happening all of this time, and yeah, this is Ellie's house, and that's her mum, so yeah, because I don't think we've ever seen her mum in the original film, so at least it's another role filled, I suppose. Oh yeah, even the title is vaguely Christmas themed as well. Yeah, I kind of forgot this show takes place across Christmas. Yeah, it's not. It's only this part of the show, really. Yeah, why was Ali going to their place again? I think I did miss the start. I'm going to come back to that. But anyway, so yeah, this looks like it's taken place from the night before, considering how close they were. Now that Johnny's brought helped with the tournament back. Yeah, and that's already a question. Thankfully, that's worked on in the following 2 seasons. If them two are a couple, how will that work? Especially with Miguel being in between all of this. So yeah, it's a good start. Just acknowledging it, and yeah, they're fine with each other now, which is nice. Even she's calling him sensei now. These some terminology with him. That's neat, I suppose. I wonder what time it is. And that gives Johnny plenty of time to do whatever he gets up to. I just suddenly realised Martin Cove had a and with his character mentioned. Yeah, that's normally indicates a special actor in any production. Sometimes it's used when I think it just generally when it's a more famous person. I never really seen Martin in anything else. my parents have seen glimpses of him in Cagney and Lacey, which was an old show. But yeah, but I haven't seen any of that. Anyway, she's replied. Imagine if she saw the other photos. What was she? I think she was just checking if she has everything. Oh, and that's what she looks like in between. Okay. Because I wondered how. Yeah, it's just interesting how people age over time, isn't it? Oh, is this where Dan and Miguel kind of had the introduction together in this episode? If not, yeah, I don't think it could be in the following one. Anyway, Miguel's being more familiar with Miyagi, which is, well, just Miyagi-Do karate. That's interesting next step for him. And yeah, considering season 4, there's the bouncer methods. Oh, is this like set up for later or? Yeah, it's like a double block, which is that? I suppose that move could work. It's almost like a custom move, but at the same time, Johnny could have taught him. Yeah, Miguel, don't break it. It's a very precious item. I wonder if it's like the original thing from the original set. The same could be said with all sorts. Oh yeah, so okay, so he's just used that as a place to stay. Where did he get the sleeping bag? In fact, he was carrying a bag when we last saw him, right? And just see how Kreese warms himself up. Oh yeah, so yeah, Johnny's trying not to make himself too settled, but Kreese is like, no, it's fine. Oh yeah, they haven't met in quite some time. Yeah, I think that would have further confused Eli, wouldn't it? Okay, there's no trying to Kreese about it. And he still thinks Miguel's. Oh, so he wasn't fully cut off then, unless. Or even then, Kreese. So, no, sorry. Eli still has, like a large grudge against Robbie. So yeah, it looks like Eli doesn't really know what to do with that. But even then, I think he's just going to try and get on with Robbie being around. Yeah, so Robbie's just willing to go out and about again. I wonder, he probably would have gone to, like, go and find his mum perhaps, but he doesn't mention that. And that's where Troy kind of teaches Robbie how to use negative emotions. Which, yeah, because this is like the third or second time they've probably spoke to one another. So yeah. Also, sorry if you hear sounds. This is the first time I'm recording in the morning, and I do have birds around my roof. So yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, they can remember. Yeah, Johnny's trying to go for a healthier dish, but only to find out that Ali just likes something straightforward, like he does. So he just goes for the same choices in the end. There you go, eye to eye for the first time in a long time. I think a part of me would have liked to see him more, but I think she does fulfill her purpose quite well, because outside of all of them meeting up and like some catching up and how she feels, even she becomes handy by you talking about how Johnny and Daniel keep getting at one another. Yeah, because outside of that, like, what else would you do with her? So yeah, I think she would have been filming in the boys' show in between, so I don't think she could have stayed long. Yeah, even if I wondered if she wanted to do more, if it was just that those 2 episodes of season 3. Might see her once more in season 6. Who knows? Really add to the finality of the whole show. Also, just kind of, I hate it when I keep missing the conversation bits in between. Even the waiter is in the on the same page as them. Yeah, complex meals may have their complex dishes. They may have their own quantities, but some of us like things to be straightforward regarding food. Yeah, that's definitely the case with me. Anyway, so yeah, Daniel's just trying to discuss what's been happening. And yeah, Daniel's just trying to make sure she's being careful. She's come through, quite a lot of men. Well, I guess similar, just not on the floor. That's where Daniel kind of starts to accept it. Oh, I remember this scene, because at the end of this segment, Robbie starts to find his place within Cobra Kai, and it kind of makes Eli a bit more left out. Yeah, Robbie's just quite confident in himself. He's been through all sorts, so he doesn't need to prove anything compared to them lot who are just Cobra Kai students who think they're all powerful in that. Well, they are very capable, but that's just Grease's voice in their heads. Oh, and he's not even getting pushed by that anyway. So I think if he didn't want to do it, he would have just left. But he's just, yeah, I think he's just gonna go along with it. And I think he's kind of friends with Tori as well as Tad, so maybe it's just a bit of fun for him. There's probably more to it. Oh yeah, also, so they must have had their class, and then after the class, this must be quite a short session, because, unless it's like an hour or two later, so that's why they're about, okay. Oh, but they just had their meals. Did they have to wait like an hour for their meal? I guess that's possible, depending on what kind of service you're at. Oh, okay, now she's, they're just looking back on, yeah, there's many instances of looking back between them two. Yeah, which is good. Yeah, always nice to see everyone catch up. Yeah. Oh, I think Ali hasn't seen what's happened. Yeah, like what's happened in between, and looks like Johnny's about to fill her in. She's trying to stay light about it, which I suppose it's nice. But now she, starts to see that it's a bit more serious. Even Johnny's just stating the facts without. But at the same time, there's like a hint that everything's still going well despite what's happened previously. Oh, okay, so that further complicates things. I suppose considering later, but also just for her to outline that. I guess it just shows not everyone's life is perfect. Look at Daniel's. He's had he's lost his dad at an early age. Yeah, unlike 1984, yeah, she kept getting bothered to buy Johnny throughout the first film. So it's just nice to finally see them get on. It's a small reference. Yeah, it looks like did she not get that radio replaced then? Well, I suppose she got another one, a bit more up to date, perhaps. Who knows? Was that in the first film as well? Unless that was, I was having struck my memory about that. And I think that's where they go to that same theme park, the miniature one with the arcade and the golf in. Is that where they're going to? Oh, and Daniel's just showing Miguel more of the car, so trying to get on with him. That's nice. Yeah, of course. Yeah, looking back, Johnny's only told Miguel about all the rough patches he's had. Yeah, not about. Well, of course, Johnny doesn't want to talk about his stepdad. That's just another topic entirely. And now they're going to talk about because that the scene on the beach in the first film, yeah, Johnny was explained his perspective, and yeah, Daniel's now going to provide his input, but it's not like a totally different perspective. If anything, Daniel just probably would clarify a couple of things. Because yeah, sometimes when there's two perspectives in a flashback, they're ever so day and night. But in this case, it's just more realistic. They know to tell the truth of what actually happened. Like with both of them, despite being rivals. So it is really cool. Okay, so yeah, they look like oh no. Yeah, I think hopefully they won't. Oh, no, Tori, you're probably a bit too loud. Even then, all of that scuffling, scuffling, is that a word? No. So yeah, that further departs Eli from the group. Just falling out with Kyla. Who's new. But yeah, Robbie's managed to get it single-handedly. That is quite a feat. what kind of snake is that? Is that an adder? Because I was trying to think, it's greyish with like a distinct pattern, but no, I think an adder's a bit more lighter and grey, so it's not a rattlesnake, wasn't it? Anyway, so we have um, Eli's further pushed back, and yeah, I wonder why they wanted a new snake. Maybe the other snake that ate Clarence the mouse, did that one die, and so Grease needed a new one? Although I would steal from the zoo. I would have to think about that. Yeah, so as well as the beach, there's that as well. Yeah, Daniel's his first. Okay, yeah, because Stanley Ali is Daniel's second. Wait, what? What? No. In season two, Daniel said he had another girl before Ali, before he moved. Unless did he like Ali more so at the point where he would see her as their first one? Oh, that's the best way to see it. Yeah, so yeah, it's like I said, as well as the beach thing, it's the this situation at the Halloween party as well, which then you'll has to admit as well, and we can assume that Johnny would have told Miguel more about the other times Daniel's got against Johnny. But yeah, now they're kind of getting on. Because after when I was getting hyped for season 4, and I was just rewatching the lot, and then I remember seeing, just just like what would Daniel be teaching Miguel? It's just really cool and interesting. Just how like a variety of teachers. It's never something I've never really seen much of. What do they get up to? I suppose we'll wait and see. Imagine if they bumped him with Johnny in this place. That could have been funny. But yeah, have they gone back to the same place? Oh, and the song's playing as well. Was that played in the original film as well? So, cool song. But yeah, almost a similar montage to the first film. But that's what the first season of this show kind of recreated more with Miguel and Sam. But it's even, yeah, some similarities to that as well. Yeah, like the Wonder Toy. I guess a nice memory, of how they made up and met up after years. Yeah, I say it's an interesting discussion about doing a nostalgic scene again. I think just using a different song, different angles, taking some inspiration from the second Easter egg or reference, and just make them a bit more different, especially now they're adults instead of kids. So I think that's where if they did it one more time, for instance, I would kind of be pushing it. Imagine if Johnny took Carmen there. Um, um, I personally wouldn't mind, but it's just you have to be careful with recreating or referencing old scenes from previous media. And now Ali's talking about who her ex-husband was, because we only saw his profile on Facebook. So, unless am I wrong? So I just reading subtitles as I express other thoughts. Oh, Ellie was talking about her kids as well. Was that it? Oh, what a shame. Yeah. I also like how it's just like a laid back Christmas setting. It's just only, giving us an idea for what, they're, whereabouts in the timeline we are. So yeah, they could have like thrown in like Christmas music or something. They could have had a Christmas song, but no, that's like what a typical Christmas special does. But this is just a normal episode rather than a Christmas special. So yeah, with Carmen happening earlier, um, yeah, yeah, that does make things complicated. At least it is clarified. Oh, yeah, I remember. I remember the party. Yeah, I think that's what the mum must have mentioned at the start of this episode. Yeah, if she has to go somewhere, yeah, why not come with her? And yeah, I think the way Johnny smiled there, I think he's like, yeah, I have a suit, because yeah, I think he must have made more of an effort to, make himself smarter when needed. Oh, so Crease, Crease must have was talking to Eli about, oh, I got this task for you, but it looks like, wow, that is, oh yeah, Eli used to be top dog, and now it's Robbie. Otherwise, Kyle there, he fumbled the thing. I suppose he got out without being spotted. Oh, I bet Tori must have been like working at a point where, well, because of her living conditions, wonder how much access she has to the news. But at the same time, she could have been like me, where you just don't really pay attention to the news at all. You might have been in. She might have been interested because it's about karate, and although we didn't see her perspective of the tournament being cancelled, I don't think. But yeah, now she knows that. I think that fuels this upcoming fight between all the kids. And I think that's where Sam, yeah, gets hold of those from Johnny's state dojo. Did Miguel mention the dojo earlier? Um, and that is a pretty smart idea. Yeah, if they're two separate entities and Cobra Kai is the bigger enemy, then yeah, exactly. That's actually quite a nice moment for Sam. Oh no. Yeah. At least Chris didn't lose his job. Also, I really like Sam's speech here because what she talks about with the rivals between dojos, well, those two little ones, kind of matches with the upcoming situation because he sees well, Johnny, he sees Ali and Daniel chatting. Yep, they see each other now. I wonder why Daniel say he was going to somewhere later? Oh, I have to keep checking. Although I think Johnny's going to play a bit smart and just see how it goes. All right, so just going to, as I conclude this episode, I'm gonna go through a couple of things and make sure I got the full context, because you should never come up with things out of the blue unless you can infer it. So anyway, so as I check the details, so the previous two seasons had a second to last episode where it really builds up the tension before like an incoming final battle occurs, or at least like a great higher point of tension. With the first film having that more so because the tournament was the following day and there was some rivalries created. Also, I just seen Miguel talk about more of his karate with Sam. The best defense is more offense. Yeah, which is what Johnny said. Yeah, that's nice. Anyway, but yeah, so we have this relatively calmer episode just before the finale, but at the same time, other than Tori possibly going after Sam again, especially with working with Miguel, which would have kind of bothered her, even if Miguel's not shown himself to be relevant to Cobra Kai, for Sam to, do that. And maybe Tori's been jealous that them two were the ones to get the tournament going again. I guess that I would have to have a look as well. But yeah, it's I think looking back, there are like some shows or seasons I've seen where where there's like a relatively calmer episode, but the final one just managed to pick up a lot of tension before its own climax is reached. Which is definitely the case with the third season, because with the two plot lines, well, with one of them with slightly more setup, just built up nicely, and then the other one, which I favour more, for subjective reasons, that's just managed to build like quickly but effectively and reasonably. So we'll just see how that goes when we come across it. So yeah, just really cool for if anything, I think there's a lot of good seeds for the following season, such as Robbie joining Cobra Kai, and the two JoJos teaming up, and Daniel and Miguel chatting. These are definitely some elements which are, because you might like wonder, what's this final episode going to look like? So yeah, I guess those little segments kind of help with the hype of the following season, but at the same time, it still acts as its own thing. It's not an episode saying, "Hey, look forward for season 4." We don't know how to end season 3. It's definitely not that, because there's still effort going towards other things. For instance, we have Eli's further been pushed out of Cobra Kai mainly because of Robbie filling in the gap. There's just been all sorts of factors, where he's, when he gets the, his dilemmas every now and again, and then he was, back to his Cobra Kai self, you could say, once he was beating up Kyla's friend, and now Robbie's come in. It's almost like the final nail in the coffin, but I think there's just one more element which further gets him to switch, sorry, so two words at the same time. I think I was talking about two. No, never mind. So yeah, we'll just see how that goes in the finale. And when we see more of Tori and Robbie getting on, with Tori passing on some advice to Robbie, and then Robbie also being, doing well in that little side quest earlier. I guess it's the best time to talk about some problem, because I was a bit caught off guard when Daniel was mentioned about Ali being his first crush, despite already, unless maybe that was just a crush back then, and then Ali was like the proper first girlfriend for him. Was that what happened? I don't know. I'd have to see what season 2 says again. So I'm going to keep an open mind whether it's if there was enough justification with what Daniel said in that episode, or if it's a small contradiction. So we'll wait to see about that. And it's also quite risky for Greece to send his students to nab a snake for a zoo. He could have easily done that in a pet store, because zoos are far more complicated, because they have to be, there's like more emphasis on health checks and looking after them, especially they could have come from another country, or it could have been born in captivity, or and zoos also have they need the numbers for the animals as well, even if the variety of snakes that are needed. So yeah, just quite risky to nab a snake from a zoo. That would complicate all sorts. Because would there be cameras? It looks like the worker didn't really see. Somehow didn't manage to get to the Cobra Kai lot. Because Robbie must have been extremely quick getting that snake if he and the others weren't witnessed. Because the snake being reported missing, that doesn't get brought up again as far as I can remember. And I know Kreese does have quite a lot of leverage, especially when Amanda struggled to tell off Kreese at the police station because of the kind of, like I said, just being a soldier gives him a bit more protection, which Kreese takes advantage of. But how would you use that to defend his he would need like an extremely good alibi for him and his students to say, we totally didn't do it. This is our snake. It's not like Kreese isn't Terry. He's not going to do, like, Kreese may be good with his taxes, but he's not rich like Terry. It's not like Terry could pay the zoo off and say, have a new snake. So unless I'm missing something, I'm gonna see if there's other segments as I rewatch this episode, but to get puzzled by those two things, that's because because as we watch this, there's probably all sorts of minor elements left out. The word minor is up for discussion. Just seeing if there's like other elements of improvement throughout this show, and I've done my best to try and pick up on a couple, because I can only think of about like a couple of episodes which have more than others, and for those two, because there's this one and the end of season 2 where I kind of had the most questions that were kind of unanswered. So yeah, I think I might do a ranking of these episodes one day. That could be fun, and I think all of them ranking wise are rather close despite areas of improvement, because I still really like this episode, because I would say another really good point is Johnny and Ali catching up. That's some really nice stuff. They managed to talk about all sorts from Johnny seeing Ali's life is perfect whilst Ali's saying otherwise, especially now she's split up, and Johnny filling her in about what's happened in between, because Ali's only seen what happened on Facebook, so Ali must have assumed that despite losing to Daniel, Johnny managed to, I don't know, get a like of decent education and then go on to being a sensei. And she might have thought that he's been a sensei for a while, but after the gaps that Johnny filled in, sorry, just losing my words again. You probably would get the idea. So just once again, they're just catching each other up of what's happened in between, some perspective of what happened back then, and and just what's happening right now, really. I don't think Johnny mentions Carmen yet. I think he mentions her in the following episode, but which I think could have been really complicated, because Ali would have been like, hang on, what happened on the bench, and did you forget about Carmen back then? I'll just have to see how the following episodes played out, but if see if because I think Ali was a bit unsure with what happened on the bench, where they nearly kissed, so hopefully that's Yeah, I think it is clarified in the following episode, so we'll just have to wait and see. And also the start of this episode, I guess it does well to set up what time of the year it is, and we also see what Ali's about to do today, and because of Facebook, she's well, actually no, she said back with the old gang, so I think she's referring to um, seeing both Johnny and Daniel. But yeah, I just don't remember any lines where Daniel's like, "Oh, this event's happening later." It's nothing major because Daniel and even Amanda, they go to all sorts of places together, and I wonder what kind of party it was. Was it just like an open one of the valley, full of people who've done well for like the valley's community? Is that what the party is? I guess that's something we'll find out as well. And oh yeah, I just seen Johnny refer to Ali's ex as an idiot. That's a bold move, but she finds it slightly amusing. Yeah, I think that's what seems to be nice about her. She just seems to, um, she's just overall, quite a positive person. Just because she definitely knows when to be serious. When Johnny starts talking about more what happened in between. But even when they talk about the likes of the radio breaking, she just laughs about it. Yeah, she doesn't let these minor like issues get the better of her, or become annoyed by it. If anything, she's just someone who's just really moved on and not letting things bother her. And I think that's what she also teaches both Johnny and Daniel in the following episode, as far as I can remember, when they're at the party. And so yeah, but yeah, just to see them both catching up, yeah, just it would have pleased a lot of original trilogy fans, or original quadrilogy. Let's always call it quadrilogy. We're not leaving Hilary Swank out because I like the fourth film as well. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, because we don't see Johnny and Ali much together in the first film. There's like a segment where they're at the party together, and of course there was the beach scene and maybe a couple of instances in the school, but just very little. But for them to to talk about all sorts in such a short span of time, that's just another really good feat. And as I said earlier, it's with that and the following episode, alongside previous instances, just seeing what Facebook is like. Yeah, I'm happy with her role overall. And we'll see, like I said, we'll see about season 6, because that could be really nice to see. Well, not just her, just but everyone, which could be quite tricky to do to balance everyone out. But I think they'll pull it off, because in season 5, a lot of people were kind of unhappy about the misbalance of protagonists, especially when it's almost like Daniel was the protagonist, and even Chosen, being seen as that had more important than Johnny, to which I can see. But I still think the likes of Johnny and Miguel, they still have, they're still the forefront characters with some of the most screen time. But from how well the showrunners have taken, how hearing the improvements and then working on them for the following seasons, hopefully we get a bit more of a balance in season 6, because season 5 did have to juggle all sorts of people. Because there are a couple of new additions as well, and not to mention who season 4 introduces as well, which is Terry, Kenny, and Johnny's new student, the girl, what was her name again? I kind of forgot. Running low on time. Just once again, just building up more connections, more catching up. Even meeting new people at the same time. So we'll just have a fairly character focused episode. Not much action once again, but if you have other elements going on, then there you go. It's just yeah, just paying attention and then gathering all the details and filling the gaps with the whole timeline. It's just I just find it rather fun. Just kind of reminds me of EastEnders because they have what's happening now, what's happened before, and and granted it's far less action in EastEnders as well. But it just goes to show that even though Cobra Kai is designed to have action every now and again, but it does make sure to have all the important elements first before fighting, because there's been cases in modern media where the fights happen they just get prioritized and without the context, and also with some misexecution. It's just definitely not satisfying. But yeah, I think I'll stop there. I can't think of anything else, and yeah, I'm going to go somewhere soon, so yeah, I'm already talking long enough, haven't I? Yeah, I'll just leave you to it, so see you in the finale. Okay, hello. Time for the season 3 finale. I'm tight on time once again, so get your episode ready. We're starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Right, so this is slightly longer than a normal episode. Yeah, and that's including credits. Okay, so Johnny's at the party, and oh yes, you have the more flashbacks. Well, the final one's for Vietnam, but yeah, we'll see what happens to Crease, because the only drama that's happening is, well, not only do we see what's happening at the moment with this, we'll see what they do with the American soldiers. But Crease doesn't know about what's happened to his girlfriend yet, and that's Terry on the left. Yeah, so at this point, Terry's just really scared, and Crease, he's like the tough one. He's almost acting like a leader, which is definitely suitable because I think, does Crease become a leader later in his soldier career? And then as the commander, he's not very helpful. Oh. Yeah, so these poor soldiers, they're forced to fight one another, and you'll see what's down there. Just losing one soldier and the commander not being very helpful with the words. Terry's pretty scared. Yeah, it's not the fall, it's what's at the bottom. Which, you'll find out, but it does explain more about why, why Cobra Kai is snake themed. Yeah, you'll definitely see that later on. Oh no, I think I might have given it away for those who haven't watched it, but hopefully for those who are watching this, I think you've probably got the idea that just like watching, like get yourself slightly familiar with the show before watching me react to it. Okay, so that's where Anthony's at. Is that, yeah, that's the sun. So yeah, that's why I don't think we see him. You think he's only appeared in one scene throughout this whole show, of season rather. Oh, okay. So it's a small. We're cutting back a bit because this is just before Johnny arrives. Okay. Yeah. At least the following episode, with the last episode, it has like the interesting hint of, with Daniel in the middle of Johnny and Natalie. What would that look like? And Zeke around the kitchen. Oh yeah, that was yeah, a reference to the fifth film as well. But yeah, even they get to catch up with it, see what they're like now, and a bit of looking back as well. Yep, there's Johnny. Yeah. Oh no, even yeah, Johnny just seemed to be protective of his clothes. And yeah, later on, Daniel kind of, Ali kind of sees that they've been seeing each other recently because they don't have that shock value of, oh look, it's you. Yeah, that's where. Yeah, it's been a long time. Oh yeah, she gets given like the entire run through as well, off screen, mind you, because at least we understand, how much she's been told later on. But yeah, just nice for her to get up to date. No, Chris is trying to suggest, oh, mixing could be good. We could be like this and this. Um, but yeah, just also the dojos aren't really getting on much. It's thanks to the. I was about to say fixed by the fire, but it looks like Dimitri's going to really uh, tie the knot with everyone. Yeah, I think this is a real good moment for him. Just trying to think of other scenes I like that consist of him. He does help Eli get back on his feet in season 4, which is also rather nice. He's a bit like me, overusing words, certain words. Yeah, it's evident by this stream. Yeah, alright, so then because we already got that idea of them not getting on in the previous scene and in that one too. So yeah, they do really need to get back on track. Okay, yes, so that's just more the recap of the first season. Although, yeah, Daniel's like, oh, this is oversimplifying it, but Ali says, oh, actually, I'm like the third perspective where, you two will probably have your own views of your own conflict, but then there's me who's just seeing, all of these details, and she kind of refers to it as the truth because, that's, the truth is what happens, regardless of perspective. Yeah, Daniel's mocking Johnny for being able to use Facebook. Johnny's poured hours into finding out about Facebook. Oh yeah, and there's okay, so that's when they first meet each other. That's nice. So yeah, looks like Ali, Amanda's been told a couple of things about Ali, and I think that look from Johnny, yeah, but the Daniel's like, wait, what happened? And then Johnny's like, yeah, I know, she's told me. So they already kind of communicating. And yeah, so Ali's also knowing that also knows that Daniel runs his dojo too. So yeah, that gets more interesting subjects to talk about. It could have been like a one-off cat, but no. Even earlier, Dimitri, I'm not sure if he was talking about names of the dojo or talk about the mixes styles, but at least that's another like good Easter egg for season 4 as well. Oh yeah, it's been the first time they've met. So yeah, for him to learn karate more, so yeah, that does still make Tyler quite threatening, even if Miguel still won last time. Oh, they're cornered. How many is so with Miyagi-Do's and Eagle Fan Karate? That takes uh, about less than 10. All them two are fighting, and Chris and Tori fighting together. That's quite a match. But yeah, Chris just lost to her as well. Oh, I wish I. Um, so it looks like. Okay, are they talking about the Parliament Party in 1984? Unless this was another party. Yep. So yeah, poor Amanda's trying to catch up on all of this as well. It's just like an audience member being like, "Hang on, I haven't seen the films. What's going on?" Yeah, I was just thinking about it. Yeah, there's a whole heap of people who probably just watched the show without seeing the films. But granted, the show still provides a lot of context. Okay, now they're talking about. Um, I think when they. Um, oh no! But oh yeah. So that's what happened at the start of the second film where Daniel sadly loses Ali because someone else appeared, but it looks like there was more to it as well. So I guess that's nice to get a bit more about that. Oh yeah, so there's Kyle definitely losing Miguel, and also just the struggle with spinning kicking. It's giving Miguel a stat advantage, or like a bad advantage, or whatever kind of advantage you want to call it. Grease seems to be improvising with tools, trying to use a pen earlier. Yeah, he's still in he was in Cobra Kai, so that's why he's probably a bit more up to date compared to the others, so he's doing fine. Or Dimitri's trying to help the little ones, that's nice of him. Oh, there you go. Good swing, that's alright. Dream Michi seems to. Okay, no, he doesn't need to, a small hand getting up. He has a long way to go still. That guy's still kind of losing. Oh no, the little one's been thrown. I remember this move. Yeah, I wonder if that kid manages to get back up afterwards. There we go. She's keeping going. Looks like thanks to throughout season 3, she seems to overcome her trauma a bit. Okay, now they've beaten their own opponents quite well. That's even. But yeah, they've met once again. Oh yeah, Tori's wearing a skeleton outfit, which is a small reference to the Halloween thing. Miguel's still getting. God, that must have been a good few knocks against. Oh, he's back. He just had his head whacked by a glass fit an object. He would have been knocked out unless there was like a thinner glass. Tori wins against Chris once again. So yeah, it just looks like Koko's winning at the moment. So yeah, now Sam's back in the room, and as you see later on, she starts to remember the bow training, and she kind of uses that to her advantage. Slow motion has not been used much, but it does use it selectively. Yeah, swallow that trauma and getting back to her. I say because in the following seasons there's a bit more, about Tori's living conditions, but at this point we only have an introduction to that in at the beginning of this season. So yeah, I think she hasn't really had. I feel like she's has more screen time in the following seasons, even in the second one too. But anyway, we can see that. Well, she knows how to use a nunchuck. Well, she has been in other dojos, even as she has said about the doing kickboxing before. I remember that from season 2. But not to mention, if Grease had the weapons on the wall, then that could explain why she's a bit more familiar with weapons. Because the weapon aspect is a thing in the season 4 tournament, which we'll get to. I mean, looking forward to that already. More karate terminology, and yeah, that's where Ali's like, all right. So yeah, all this time, they may be having a lot of differences, but now she's saying they have a lot of common, which is half true. Not only basic similarities like both having dojos and teachers and some similar philosophies at time to time as well, but now Ali just sees more in common as well. And yeah, thanks to her, they get on better. And even if they did have a falling out in season 4, that's what it's mostly is. It was just because in these first 3 seasons they've just been through worst tick ever, just that point of being properly aggressive against one another, which there's hints of it in the following season as well, but I think it just goes to show, even if you've made up, you still can have like a falling out in between, which can be normal, because also in season 5 there's hardly any falling out between them as well, so which goes to show that they can get on. And it looks like Ali's a proper good it's like she's like built the bridge for them, and you get the idea. She's kind of talking about the premise of the show. I suppose just needing the balance between no, not a balance, but about the good overcoming the bad, which is just basically a representation of overcoming Cobra Kai despite how big of an entity it is. I bet that look from Ali then probably tells her about how much she's caught up upon, and maybe just looking back on what the time's going to be like. But it looks like everything's fine for all the adults. Well, yeah, not the kids, evidently. Oh no. Yeah, not the portrait. At least the photo's still intact. Oh, gosh. Oh, Sam, you better be quick. Tori could hit her at any moment. Okay, that was a bit delayed earlier, but I suppose Tori just wanted to make sure she hit right, because I think with a nunchuck you do have to probably give yourself a good charge before throwing it. But not to mention it could have been slow motion as well. In real life, Sam must have thought quickly, thanks to Daniel's advice, which did play in ahead. Miguel's doing okay, but now he is lost again, because Carly has that wrestling knowledge. And Eli's just a bit lost in all of this. It's going back and forward between Grease and Johnny. Oh, even that line as well. Because yeah, he just sees Dimitri and thought, you know what, he may be on the opposite side, um, um, but yeah, he is already his mate. So previously, you would have thought, oh, despite the dilemma, he's just gonna keep on going, and getting hot, a free shot against Dimitri is really tempting. But no, he decides to turn, which actually helps with the rest of the fight as well. Dimitri's a bit shocked and got an apology. We do see, there you go, they're friends again. And yeah, they work together as well, which really cool moment between them. Yeah, and despite not much emphasis other than Dimitri's reaction, yeah, I bet they would already see about Hulk, teaming up with Dimitri, and that would be enough for them to be like, oh no, now they're um, Eli switched. Alright, so he's just looking back on Johnny's advice. Oh, that was Sam's move, yeah. Okay, now he's just managed to use his legs a bit more. Wow, he's done really well because he was getting more hooks against his right rib. Like, I'm surprised they're not broken. Now he's almost used his Kylie's trick against him. So yeah, Miguel finally won. God, if that must have been at his most beaten. So yeah, but I remember an interesting video. I might have seen it where apparently, as Samantha says, oh, this drum helped with this move, and Miguel then used that move, probably defending himself from a devastating punch, and not to mention getting a good advantage over Kyler as well. But yeah, it's just Miguel just telling himself not to give up, because I think because despite how keen he is to become a fighter, I think he must have been like tempted to give up, as seen with the many times he just constantly pushing himself despite the hesitation fighting him as well. And yeah, I guess we'll go back to him. Anyway, Tori's kind of lost a bit outmatched, sees that Eli switched. Dimitri managing to talk above Tori as well, he's just becoming a bit more of a tough person, which is really nice. Oh yeah, Amanda Adana must have been talking about Carmen every now and again. I think with what happened on the bench, I bet Ali must have thought, that's a, it was like a one-off mistake for both of them, and she seems to be okay with it, which I suppose it's nice, because it would have been a bit complicated if she was like, wait, you did mention Carmen, and then that happened on the bench, but yeah, it looks like even both of them just kind of see like the past has its own qualities, especially looking back, but just focus on what's happening now, which is quite a good step, because all of them just keep looking back, Johnny and Daniel, and it's like reigniting things that aren't meant to be there or aren't needed. But yeah, they're buddies again, which is really nice. Yeah, it'll be a long time since they'll next see each other again. Like I said, we'll see about season 6. Is that that must have been a taxi, because Johnny doesn't have a car. He ditched his car in the second season, but I suppose that's the only time he's travelled. Because not that I've seen all of the essays, but the essays on YouTube, the video essays, they talk a lot about the downsides of nostalgia, and even if it makes you feel good, some revisiting, a lot of good memories in between. But it just shows about how nostalgia, can have its negatives. It's reunited a rivalry, and it's brought all of this out and about with Cobra Kai and that, bringing it back. So it just shows the downsides, but it doesn't treat nostalgia as an overall bad thing. It's just, what happens when the cycle repeats, which is just one of its themes. Yeah, so Johnny was just prepared to give everything to Carmen, and Miguel, but maybe the bottom right, because that's where the bottom left. Sorry. Oh yeah, yeah, it was his left he kept getting hit by. So I'm surprised it's there. Maybe it was just like one of his worst punches there, unless he's just very in the ice pack in various places. But regardless, Miguel's been attacked by Cobra Kai, and you would have thought Carmen was kind of mad, but she doesn't see it as, because in season 2 it was Johnny's fault, because he was involved in the training and then in the mindset. But after Johnny making up and Miguel not getting involved in that anymore, it is just an ambush that's happened. And even without the events of season 2, I think she still would have been like, oh no, they've got a hold of Miguel. And yeah, I don't think, she doesn't want to put any blame on Johnny. Would have been interesting, because I don't know, it would have mean they would have to make up again, which is possible, as evident with with Daniel and Johnny, the many times they've had to make up. But yeah, I think that would have been a whole other story. Anyway, on to this flashback. So yeah, Terry was scared to fight. Kreese offered. Now Kreese has found out the truth, and the commander seems to be keen on living as well. Yeah, because the previous soldiers, they were just forced to fight one another, but in this case it looks like they have their own motivation. Not only like, even if finding out that his girlfriend's dead, I think he's still really angry at the commander at a point where I think just part of him needing to win. And yeah, but now there's just a proper rivalry between them two. Yeah, and there's interesting segments later on that both fights seem to be paralleled, because similar to Johnny, Kreese has also had his downfalls, and I guess it would be open because Amanda managed to walk in last time, assuming that Kreese can organise other things overall over time, like such as new recruits. So I guess that's why the door was open. But yeah, looks like Robbie's finding more of his place there. Yeah, as Chris mentioned in season 2, just the idea of adding Robbie in, and now that's started to come alike. Come alike? No, come about, sorry. Oh. I really like Martin Cove's like just the kind of charisma he has. He's so suave and smooth, but just like with a hint of like wisdom, and being just being able to be threatening as well. Sorry if I used the wrong words. Anyway, so Johnny's striking first, and yeah, I think throughout the modern fight, Kreese pretty much takes a lot of the beating, as evident here. Just a lot of basic punches, and I think this is my favourite fight involving Kreese as well. Because not only because of the context, but it's just some a lot of moments I can remember that he performs. Oh, okay, that's a double hand, just get him on punch out the way. Grease knocked his leg back. Okay, yeah, that would make Johnny collapse a bit more. And yeah, now Grease is trying to probably hurt Johnny's neck somewhere with the hands behind there. Managed to dodge a kick. Good kick block. Oh, a couple of spins from Grease there. And this is a really interesting moment because they're already, a bit deep in this fight. Grease is a bit shocked there. And yeah, so it's like a heat of the moment thing of, almost seeing red, where Johnny's like, well, you know what, I'm really cross with what Miguel's been through. So yeah, he's tempted to use that weapon, but yeah, Johnny, once again proves himself to be better, almost. So kind of wins that first round against Grease. Yeah, Robbie's almost about himself, because he kind of hints how he doesn't really let himself get influenced. It's just his choice as he listens. But yeah, it just looks like Robbie's been slightly manipulated by Kreese, with the mistakes Johnny has done. Oh no, and Robbie's out, and yeah. Aside from that, accidentally knocking him out, yeah, Johnny doesn't throw any punches back to Robbie, which yes, wise move. By constantly defending, he has to, make Robbie, dissuade Robbie from carrying on fighting. And as a couple of times we've seen before, John likes to improvise. Yeah, and now he has a bit more of an upper hand. Yeah, all of that bruising is one thing, but to get a stab as well. And now he's nearly down. And then there's also that really interesting moment, which you'll see later on. Also, Grease getting a weapon rises attention. But yeah, it looks like he only needed the handle to, just to give Johnny a proper shock at the back of the head. Alright, so looks like, like Crease's team, they must have been reporting missing for quite some time, and you can assume the location's been found and picked up upon now they're there. And anyway, so Crease has won this fight, and now they're both still alive, they could probably get on again. But yeah, the Crease we're starting to know begins right here. And that's where the Cobra Kai inspiration comes from, with the snakes as shown there. Wow. Oh, there you go. I think, yeah, so now Kreese has gone for the second method of trying to choke him. Now he's lost his weapons, so I think Kreese must have thought of killing Johnny now that he's out the picture. I can think of a reason how he can get away with it. Anyway, one thing, I'm not sure the bell rang when Daniel entered the door. That's something that's always kind of bothered me, but regardless, Johnny is saved. Daniel probably would have heard about what's happened to Sam. He's mentioned his daughter. Now they're fighting. And you can see some of Miyagi's moves as well. Oh, that was a good hit to the neck then. A couple of other hits against Kreese as well. But now Daniel's just got, hit in the stomach. That would have lowered his guard a bit, which gave Kreese that advantage. Now he's going to try and heal Daniel as well, because of everything they've been through. But yeah, Daniel just manages to remember Chosen's advice, because yeah, Kreese was intending to kill him. So yeah, definitely needed to use that move. But then, yeah, Daniel sees Johnny's fine. Johnny nods, saying, yeah, you might as well get rid of him. And yeah, because all this time there's trying to, stop him. And it looks like Daniel was about to perform like a killing move almost. But with the kids being there, that's definitely put them off. Yeah, can't kill anyone in front of, in front of the kids. Yeah, that wouldn't be a nice sight for them to see. Alright, so just trying to say it has to go. And now Kreese has an idea. So he's willing to let go of Cobra Kai, but yeah, just doing it the old-fashioned way, I suppose. Yeah, because Kreese reaffirms that in the following season, but the difference is that Johnny's like convinced that they will not lose the tournament, but Kreese is like, oh, I'll tell you what, if you lose though, you get to stop, which he has a nasty bruise on Robbie's head. Yeah, like from Robbie's perspective, nothing good has come from anyone that he sees, because like Kreese saying about how Robbie's was like a top Cobra Kai student. Yeah, that's just some of the most positive feedback Robbie's got, even advice from Tori. Anyway, so Kreese has helped saved the lot, and yeah, and Terry's extremely thankful, because they were mates before, but now they're proper buddies now. And this is something that they slightly reference in the third film. Terry talks about how he'll say goodbye, Kreese. And I wondered I think Kreese killing the commander as well. I wondered if they didn't see because of the airstrike around them. But maybe it's like one of the situations where they didn't see the commander as a very good figure, especially with, how, if he took the soldiers to that mission and also just seemed nothing helpful, during the cage fight, and God knows what could have been happening afterwards. So there might have been alright with the commander going down to the pit. But yeah, I think that's just sometimes what happens with flashbacks, especially when they're quite in depth. It can leave a lot of things up in the air, but I guess just another thing we can infer. Not to mention, I think Kreese does gain a high rank. Kind of forgot what was said in the police station a couple of episodes ago. Anyway, so Kreese, would have most likely looked back every now and again, as evident by the flashbacks. Seen the picture twice, and the phone call he makes we see in the following season. And I have no idea who Terry was, because I saw the trailer and I was like, who is that? But then he was in the third film, and then watching the third film, I thought it was awesome. And so we were watching the show again. I was just so excited for him to come back, because now they're working together, evidently. Kreese is going to balance the scales in his own way. Yeah, I really like this scene. It's just part of them pretty much being friends, despite a couple of obstacles along the way. Yeah, they're all together now. And then we do see the rest of that in the following season. Oh, my tablet's nearly dead. I'm going to quit the episode. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, normally I look back on the episode, but not this time. Okay, finale of season 3. That was awesome. Still, I don't know how to rank these seasons, because I'm almost tempted to say like each one better than the last, but I think I would be more in level with large majority that the school fight's probably my least favourite because it just, I mean, it's just a bit more distant away from Daniel and Johnny. But yeah, just the other finales I really like. If anything, I'd probably tend to say, as I said last time, I like season 3 and 5 having finales that take place outside of the dojo and how grand it feels. Like, granted, they would have been issues with the law because the tournament's at least self-contained as a sport. I still like the tournaments, both season 1 and 4, and season 6 will be awesome too. But yeah, just 3 and 5. Yeah, I just like the premise. And oh yeah, so let's so yeah, why would yeah, Kreese is slightly deranged with wanting to kill Johnny and Daniel, but as evident with the how much the protection he would get from the police station, I think he would have twisted the narrative as self-defense. I think he would have, because he's evidently saying about how Amanda hit him, and that was true, and he took that just made himself the victim, and yeah, I think that's something he would kind of lose because he does sadly get arrested in the following season for different reasons, of course, which we'll get to. But yeah, I think as we saw back then, I think that's just like a small hint to show how much leverage Kreese has, and yeah, it's bold to kill a couple of men around your dojo, but yeah, once again, it could have been, yeah, like I said, I think he would have twisted it as self-defense, and yeah. Anyway, so let's try and summarize season 3 as a whole. And I think this is pretty much. I think it's almost an episode about healing. No, sorry, a season about healing, because you have Sam having a trauma and a scars. You have Miguel recovering. The Daniels business is all good. Well, it has been for a while now, even probably after the snake incident. And yeah, Daniel and Johnny, they're friends now, thanks to Ali. Yeah, really nice cameo from her. And Eli is, he's switched back. He's so yeah, that's cool. And over time, Kreese is at the end of the season, he's pretty battered, and as you'll see later on, he struggles to get Terry on board at first. So he almost has the opposite of what the characters have, where he's pretty much the most fearsome man in karate, and now it's just kind of losing that ranking, I suppose, a different kind of ranking. Because yeah, at the start it looks like Daniel and Johnny have really got it. Although what I will say is that whilst the end of that last episode is like presented as all grand, but then in the following season, in the following episode rather, is that there's like a comedic moment where Daniel and Johnny state their own advice and the students are confused who to listen to. So to go from grand to slightly comedic, there's definitely reason, because Daniel and Johnny, it looks like they didn't really talk about how to communicate it considering it's their first time, but I think it's just slightly jarring, not largely. If anything, I probably would have liked it if the funny moments came slowly, which I think it does attempt to, because Daniel does speak quite formally, and then suddenly Johnny comes in, and I think it's still funny looking back, but just something I want to share, I suppose. But yeah, just overall in this season, it's been fairly laid back. Probably the least amount of action throughout the whole show, but do you have this nice little middle chapter where it's allowing everyone to recover, absorb the events, and even Ali, looking back on the history and getting Johnny and Daniel to move on, is similar to how the school event, gets, just like sidelined once everyone is skiing their time. And yeah, I don't want to speak too much because not only repetition but due to my short time as well. Yeah, I think when looking at all the seasons subjectively, I kind of see it as like my third favorite, and even and I think this might be controversial, but from you know, you might have heard about the whole objectivity discussion. I think if because yeah, the first season is definitely the most tidiest with its writing, and this third season is either second or third, because I also really think because I think the season four's fab as well, despite a bit of an extensive cast. But I suppose we'll see how that goes along. But yeah, just yeah, it's just as well as healing, it's just a lot of mending friendships as well. Not only Johnny and Daniel, but Daniel being introduced to Miguel. Miguel's moved on from Cobra Kai. Eli and Dimitri are friends again, and Carmen and Johnny are fine. Yeah, so just a lot of that throughout that season, and it helps with getting them all in position for the following season. And yeah, despite the not getting on every now and again, they're all vaguely in a good position. So yeah, it's quite a good start. And yeah, I just can't think of anything else. Even this episode is quite cool. It's a action heavy episode, which yeah, definitely just feels like a nice treat to wait for. And the choreography on both fights were good. The fight in the dojo at the end is definitely one of my favourite fights. Because yeah, Johnny and Kreese may have fought before at the start of season 2, but that was a light spar compared to, or light sparring rather, yeah, far lighter than what was happening then. Because yeah, they were just really beating each other then. And yeah, and it was also interesting to see Robbie. He goes from. In fact, I think he almost. I think I think everyone suffers in their own way until they find a position. But unlike everyone else, Robbie, is he's flipped sides, which does make him stand out. And yeah, Johnny and Daniel are still my favourite characters, and I really like Terry Silver as well, actually, as we'll see later on. As for kids, I like Miguel, and Eli also has a lot of interesting moments as well. It was almost like his season because it's because even though he does have some good moments in the following 2 seasons, there's a lot of time spent on him in this third season, and how he realistically flips over time because of the dilemmas and all the times he gets pushed back and times where he's tries to hold on to this alter ego he's created. It's some really good stuff. He's definitely a good representation of the season's theme. And yeah, I think that's all I can say. I think I probably would like to talk more about season 3 over time, but like I said, I am a bit getting a bit short on time. Just overall, just nice and neat and laid back. Well done. A lot of time spent on the characters. Probably less flaws than the second season, despite what I spot from both of them. Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I think that's what I can think about. I think what I will say is that learning more about Kreese as well. He's treated like a proper antagonist, and this is the first season where the whole black and white aspect is it's like the whole morality thing. It's still kind of there, but now we're at an approach where Cobra Kai and its senseis are the bad guys now. Which sort of an interesting realistic angle to go for, because yeah, season 1 may be really good with Johnny and Daniel being against one another, but I think it is just still worth seeing how Kreese would run his dojo nowadays, and how he would run it with Terry as well in the following season. Yeah, looking forward to it already. Right, I better go. Hope you enjoyed season 3, and I'll see you in season 4.